Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. So with that being said, let's get it. Okay, so we're going to go over a few things first. One of those is the portfolio. So you guys can see the portfolio here. We talked about this in a previous video. We did buy AIOZ over the last few days. I think the stake in this one as of right now is 2,100. So it's still down quite a bit, but the average cost basis is about 75 cents, whereas the current price is 44 cents. Again, this is crypto. If you can't handle all I have to say about it is if you can't take the heat, then get out the kitchen, because crypto is extremely volatile. And if you are not comfortable with the potential of 30, 40, 50% drops, this might not be the thing for you. Maybe dividend paying stocks or something else might be for you. Again, that's not financial advice. I'm just telling you guys this is the most volatile asset class in the world for a reason. Most people, crap their pants when they see their portfolio go down 50%, and they don't want to buy anything after that. So, just this is the reason why we educated ourselves for years on crypto and how it works to give us an edge over the market, so to speak. So, anyways, you can see the portfolio here is still exactly the same. It does appear that some of these cryptos are going up, so that's good. But nothing's changed, and the portfolio is still literally exactly the same, with the exception of the buys on AIOZ. So I'm going to go over a few things with you guys here, so you can see that we got this golden cross back here on July 9th, and then we got another golden cross on July 12th. So it does appear like the market was kind of chopping around. Like I said before, what we're looking for here is a golden cross on the EMAs with moves ultimately higher. As you guys can see, this candle here was higher than these previous candles. That's a bullish sign, and theoretically we want to see this candle get above this line here, which again is kind of this downtrend line that we've been in forever. If it gets above that, then I would say it's extremely bullish after that. So we're going to start loading the boat on crypto immediately in the morning. That's kind of the plan here, unless it has another pullback below the EMA. So pretty much kind of the rule of thumb that we're going by here is on the 4-hourly time frame. If the price is below the EMAs, we're not going to touch crypto. If it's above the EMAs, we're going to go heavy into crypto, because again, Bitcoin is substantially down, and the altcoins as well, from all-time highs, even with this golden cross. So there's that. I also want to go over a couple other things with you guys. So the Bitcoin dominance. Again, we've been talking about this forever. If the SEC would eventually, at some point, hopefully approve the spot Ether ETFs and get them listed. Well, I mean, they've been approved, but there's no listings. If they would just simply allow them to get listed, we could begin alt season and finally start making some serious money on these alts and the all grayscale trusts. So rising wedge, Bitcoin dominance was going up forever. Now it looks like it's chopping sideways. If we see a big sell-off below this resistance zone and below these EMAs, you can, well, I can't say you can be sure, but we can all probably be a little bit more confident that likely we are entering into an alt season. Again, I'm going to show you guys what that looked like before. This huge dump and then waterfall out of this rising broadening wedge was the alt season. Okay. When the Bitcoin dominance falls like this, that's when alts go absolutely ballistic and have thousands of percentage gains, or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of percent. So that's kind of what we're looking for. And it looks like the BTC dominance might be teetering on the edge. So that's the reason why 100% of our money in native crypto is in altcoins, not in Bitcoin, because again, Bitcoin just had a cycle top. So if the cycle theory timing is to remain true, we should be in, the second leg of it now, basically Bitcoin money flowing into Ethereum and then into large cap, mid cap, and small cap altcoins. That's kind of the transition I'm thinking we're about to have happen here pretty shortly. So I'll start on the largest time frames and then go over the smallest ones, or smaller ones, I should say. So no MACD death cross on the monthly. Usually, as you guys can see on the monthly time frame, that is pretty indicative of a bear market top, although we don't look at that to indicate the top for Bitcoin because it's always lagging. But you guys can see that we are trying to hold up here above these candles. I would say if on the monthly we have a close anywhere above, anywhere above 60,500, that in my mind would be a bullish signal. And once again, we have not broken below this flag. We are not technically closed below this trend line here, which if we get a monthly candle close below that, that would be a serious red flag for me. But we also still have this lower trend line here as well. So everything on the monthly still looks bullish in my opinion. Now in terms of, well, let's go actually to the biweekly here. So biweekly, again, if this candle closes below this candle, that's obviously not good. But as you guys can see, even on the 2-week, we are still above this first trend line here. Like I told you guys before, as long as we're inside of the flag and above this trend line and above the yellow and the blue EMA, I would still say this is bullish, even though we did have a substantial pullback. Just to give you guys an idea of how much Bitcoin has already pulled back. So at the lowest point of this thing, Bitcoin was down about 26%. That's actually pretty normal for Bitcoin, believe it or not. So as of right now, we're only down about 19%. Again, Bitcoin is starting to recover a little bit, but we have not seen the histogram change a lighter shade of red yet on the MACD, indicating this thing is indeed going to go into a bull run. Like you saw here, it went from dark red to light red, then to dark green, which indicates an uptrend, and then light green, sideways, dark green, another big move up. It's kind of what we're looking for here. So, I mean, yeah, on the weekly, this green candle is still above this trend line. Even though it hasn't had a close yet, it's going to have a close in 23 hours and it's still within the flag. So as far as I'm concerned, the bull market is still on at this point. Like I said, a pullback in time and or a pullback potentially. So the thing I'm looking for here, you see this massive trend line going all the way up to 72,000. We have been held and pushed down below that for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks on end. Okay. So on the daily time frame, we do actually have a golden cross now finally on the MACD with a green shades on the histogram being printed. We did also have this kind of, it's a little bit harder to see, but we had this bullish divergence. So RSI going up, price coming down, and we hit the oversold territory. So that indicates both of those indicate potential bullish reversal. So there is that. But once we get a close above this trend line, I mean, it's game on after that point in my mind, because again, this is a major long-term trend line of resistance. If we can get and close above it, even on the daily time frame, I would say that's extremely bullish. So I'll get back to the chart in a minute, but for now, we're going to go over the other search terms. So crypto, last 5-year search term, again, it has spiked up a little bit, but it's still relatively low. Lows was basically between like 10 to 15, somewhere in there. 18 is the current level. So as you guys can see, the peaks were at 70 and 100 back here on the crypto search term. And if I go over Bitcoin, Bitcoin specifically, because again, it matters what Bitcoin does. It is the market mover. Okay. Altcoins will not move unless Bitcoin moves or unless money flows from Bitcoin into Ethereum. So you can see we're at a low here on Bitcoin. So 16, and then I mean, we're pretty much hitting the bottom here. So roughly about 13 to 16, 15, somewhere in there on the bottom. And then the peaks were roughly around 100. And then you had this, I'm not sure what this was, maybe some kind of bear market swing high or something, a 77 on Bitcoin. So again, we're not even close to the top for Bitcoin, in my opinion. You can see the $75,000 level back here that was hit. We were only at a 50. So in my opinion, we're still very early based on that metric. Fear and greed. So you can see we were in greed last month and now we're in the fear territory. This, generally speaking, just by fear and greed alone is typically the best time to buy crypto. And if I go over the max time frame, you can see just how rare these dips are. So the last one we had was way back here in September. And then before that, we didn't have one until November 2022, which, as you guys know, is the bear market lows. And then June and January, and you can see how rare these are. Basically, what I'm trying to show you guys here is that these lows that we're seeing now happen months, if not years apart. So this is a golden opportunity. But, you know, it's your guys' money. You can do what you want to with your own money. So MVRV score, as you guys can see here, is tilting down. In my opinion, we were never really expensive on this metric to begin with. I still think it's relatively cheap. You can see the first cycle peak back here actually did hit the light pink box. Anything in between these pink zones, in my opinion, is the most ideal time to get the hell out and just take profit. But we're kind of pushing more towards down the green, so towards the green area, I should say. So it does actually look even more bullish than it already did before. Again, this metric to me is undervalued. So Bitcoin rainbow chart, again, nothing having to do with the rainbow. It's just a chart. So we're in the buy zone. Once again, I've stated before that I think likely we will top out. If I can even get this thing to pop up. Okay, there we go. We're probably going to top out somewhere, I would have to guess, in the yellow, or maybe in the kind of lighter shaded green, yellow, somewhere in there, basically in between HODL and I would say somewhere between still cheap and HODL. Again, as you guys can see, these lower peaks from each cycle peak on this regression band here keeps getting lower and lower and lower. The last peak was just above the yellow one, so it would make perfect sense for us to top out in the yellow one or somewhere around there. Which again, if I go out in time here, you guys can see that's still pretty expensive. So that would put Bitcoin at nearly $300,000, even if we just hit the middle of this band. So the fact that it's in the buy zone, again, to me indicates that we're still early and it's extremely undervalued. Plus, you also have to remember there's an inverse correlation between the dollar and Bitcoin. So when the dollar goes down, Bitcoin's going to go up. So Nupal, this one's pretty expensive, but again, I would just simply accost this to attribute this to the spot Bitcoin ETFs. We're not even supposed to be this high at this point in the cycle, but is what it is. In my opinion, the pullback will reset us, and then we'll eventually go to new highs. So 2 things I want to point out on the Pi cycle top indicator. Number 1, generally speaking, once the price gets above the green band, that's usually when we see the parabolic blow off top. We have not seen it get above the green band and head higher yet. And the second thing we're looking for here is a tap or a cross of the yellow and the green EMA. We also have not seen that yet. So as you guys can see, the top EMA there, the 350, is priced at 93,000. So Bitcoin could go up to $93,000 according to this before even touching the green band or the green EMA. So that should tell you how much price side we have here. If I were just to measure that, let's say from the current price all the way up to 93,000, you guys can see just how massive of a move that is. That's 55%. If I were actually to use the Fibonacci's, let's say from the swing high, assuming that this right here is the swing low, which is possible. Again, we get that price target pretty much right around, not quite in the middle, but pretty close to the middle of the 1.6 and 2.618 on the local swings. Again, the macro swings, I believe the target for the max price on Bitcoin is 220,000 or 240,000. So much, much higher than that. There's one other thing I want to go over on the chart with you guys before we get into the miners. And that is I want to pull up the Bollinger Bands, because I don't know if you guys know this, but the Bollinger Bands is typically a very good indication of a reversal coming on Bitcoin, or any asset for that matter. It's a good way to basically help time tops and bottoms for instruments that you're looking to trade or get the best buy on for investments or whatever. So on the weekly time frame, you guys can see we got well outside the Bollinger Bands. It did pull back within the bands. That's totally normal. Generally, when it gets outside of the bands one way or another, that indicates there is a very strong likelihood that if this thing is outside of the bands to the upside, it's going to pull back. And if it's outside of the bands to the downside, it's going to rip. Okay. So what we're seeing right now is you can see that the price did actually get outside of the bottom of the Bollinger Bands here, and it looks like it basically is going back within the bands. That's exactly how this instrument is supposed to work. I can show you guys previous times here how this has happened. So you can see here, I got to the top of the bands. What did it do? It pulled back. Got to the bottom of the bands right here. What did it do? It pumped. If I actually go back in time here to the previous bull cycle, you can see exactly what happened. So it rode the top of this band all the way up to the eventual peak of Bitcoin, and then it did eventually pull back. And then what did it do? It hit the bottom of the band and then ripped again to the upside. And that's just kind of how this thing works. So I'm going to go down to the daily time frame now. We'll dig into this a little bit. As you guys can see, it really has been pushing against the bottom of this Bollinger Band. It does now look like it wants to get back to a point where it's going bullish. So you can see it's getting above the middle of the band right here. That's always a bullish sign. Plus, we also had this break of structure. So we broke this 58,200 level. That's very bullish. And I don't usually use the Bollinger Bands typically, but this is kind of an extra tool to be able to predict a a future move in the Bollinger or in the price of an asset. So you guys can see we kind of tapped the bottom multiple times here, kind of getting stuck in between. You can see this coiling of the bands, okay? So usually when the bands coil like this, they have a move in one direction or another. In this case, it does actually look like it wants to move up. So you can see it's pushing against the top band here. That's a bullish sign, whereas this one was basically it was pushing against the top of the band, but then it kind of sold off. So as long as we don't see a sell-off, I would say we're good. So yeah, in my mind, as of right now, it is buy time for the not just the Bitcoin and altcoins, but also, perhaps Bitcoin, but I would say more so altcoins, because I think that we're probably going to have an alt season soon, but also the Bitcoin miners as well, which we're going to go over right now, and the Grayscale trusts. So Mara had this huge hammer candle well above the EMAs right off support. I would say that's extremely bullish. Again, we got to get above this line at 2120. We're about to have a golden cross on the weekly time frame. That's also extremely bullish. We already had one on the RSI, so that's again extremely bullish. So I will reiterate one more time that we're in this huge, absolutely monstrous rising broadening wedge here. That's generally a bearish pattern, but as you guys can see, we can bounce in between this for a long time. So support is 18 to about $20. Resistance above head is 29 to 33. And as you guys can see, Mara just recently was actually up at that level. And then if I were to calculate this out all the way to December, which theoretically should be roughly around the time of Bitcoin's top, or maybe sometime like a month or two after that, Mara should theoretically be at $51 a share. So I'll just pretty much measure it from the current price, let's say to the resistance, 61% move. And then let's say all the way out here to December. Again, that's going to be about 157% move. So huge gainers there. Just so y'all know, Mara does have some extremely juicy options premiums for cash secured puts and covered calls. So CLSK, this one's still kind of bouncing around. No change in the histogram on the MACD or the RSI. It's not a great sign, but just have to keep a lookout on it. So this channel does seem to be holding. Again, the channel is ranging between $14.60 to about $21. If it turns out this is a huge bull flag, which the flag would be basically this right here, the target would be all the way up at resistance at 36.22. Yeah, I hope that happens because, again, we have roughly about 300 shares of this. So support here, roughly about 12 and a quarter to 1380. But again, that is below this channel. The channel, which I've already told you guys about as of right now, is support. So 2130 to 2360, and then 3650 to 4260, all the way up there at that higher resistance. If we hit on a high around December timeframe, that price should be roughly about $55.50. So from the current price to the first resistance level here would be 49%. The second one would be 170%, and then all the way by December, assuming it gets to the top of this wedge here, which if technical analysis does play out on this, that's exactly what should happen. That would be textbook in this case, 254% move. Okay, so Riot, this one apparently is bouncing off of the support, and we have a nice little bullish hammer candle here, so that's always a good sign. That could be a reversal signal right there. We got to get above this trend line, inverse head and shoulders pattern. As you guys know, the target is all the way up here at 1480. HUD 8 already went up to those prices, so I have no reason to believe Riot's not going to do the same thing. As you guys can see, the MACD is slowly starting to go bullish here. It does look like we might get a golden cross, and the RSI is also trying to finagle its way up to that bull zone down there. So support still is going to be 780 to about 10 and a quarter. Resistance 1860 to roughly about $21. I would say right around these candle lows right here is going to be your low on Riot, which again is just shy of $9. So if I were just to measure it from these lows, let's say to the inverse head and shoulders target, 67%, and then all the way up to this target, all the way up the top here at 21, that's 136% move. So here's an example of what could actually happen with Riot. So you see the difference here. Okay, Riot's just kind of flatlining. Again, we want to see that golden cross on the EMAs, kind of like we saw right here, and then boom, it rips to the upside. I think Riot, in my opinion, is in accumulation, because if HUD 8 did this, then Riot probably most likely is going to do it. I would say all the miners are going to do it. Again, that's not a guarantee. I can't promise anything, but if one of them moves, then in theory, all of them should move, right? So HUD 8, in my opinion, at this point is a little expensive. If I was looking to get into this, I would probably do some cash secured puts. I would not buy off the market, because again, you're buying at market price. With cash secured puts, you can buy anywhere down here. So support is going to be 380 to about 880. The resistance here is 1730 to about $22.50. And we have this massive falling wedge here, which again is a bullish pattern, and the target should be the top of the wedge, so roughly about $23. Personally, though, like I said, the only way that I would get into this, because of how much risk you can see is here, is with a cash secured put. And I would probably just do it one contract at a time if it was me. Again, that's not financial advice, but it could, let's say I was to put a cash secured put at $14 and it gets filled, and then Riot goes down to $12. Well, if I put all of my money into HUD 8 at $14 and then it goes down to $10 or $12, well, I don't have anything left to put down in at $10 or $12. You see my point, right? So, you guys can do what you want to with this. I mean, there's still some upside here, but the downside is absolutely massive. It could also do the opposite and just go even higher than this swing high and just shoot for the moon, go like 80, 90, $100. That could happen. But if I was going to want to play that, I would not do it unless it got back down to support. So cifr, I'll say the same thing I said about cifr before. I think this is going to turn out to be a bearish pattern. Because again, every time we've gotten up to this resistance, it has gotten rejected every single time. It has not had a candle close above any of these previous candle closes, okay, with the exception of this one. But then again, it got shot back down. So it keeps getting held down at resistance. On the flip side, the bull story is we have higher lows. So this could be an ascending triangle. It could squeeze. If that is the case, the target would be $8.95. So if it comes down to support, you're looking for roughly about 210 to 270. Resistance here, roughly about $5 to $5.50. And then the swing high up there is at $5.90. Just to give you an idea of the risk here, the potential drop could be huge, so about 55%. There's no guarantee it has to go down. If Bitcoin's going to go up, likely the miners are probably just going to go up too. So this could actually be a bullish pattern. But again, it's gotten held below resistance 4 times, okay? And truth be told, if I was going to buy cifr, I probably would have wanted to buy down here and then ride it up to this resistance or even higher than that. But that's just me. So you guys can do what you want on that one. So btbt, similar to HUD 8, this already had a breakout. That's why I'm so convinced that Riot's about to rip. So support here, 170 to about $2. Resistance, 420 to 480, and then 525 on the swing high up there. There's still some upside here, but again, the downside is also substantial, so you guys can do what you want to with that. Again, if I was going to get into btbt, I would probably do some cash secured puts, but then again, btbt it's not very heavy on volume when it comes to options, so the options volume may be pretty slim. You may have to go out further in time to actually be able to get into this one, or wait for a pullback to buy at a cheaper price. Because, unlike Mara, which has thousands of contracts per strike price, btbt doesn't have very many. So bitf, this one is kind of in the middle, so I'd be waiting for a pullback into support, 195 to about 230. Resistance, $3 to 360 and 390 respectively, all the way up to the swing high. Just from the current price to the swing high, as you guys can see here, 56%. However, if you wanted to wait for it to get, say, somewhere around the middle of the support, then the profit that you would make would increase substantially to 82%. And again, if it goes above this swing high, I mean, you guys can see the Sky here is potentially the limit. I mean, it could even go higher than these prices, especially if Trump gets reelected as president, which in my opinion he will. I don't know if you guys saw what happened on the news today, but we did actually donate another $100 to the RNC because that's absolute nonsense. That should not be happening. Okay. Nobody has done that to Biden, and Biden has destroyed this country, not beyond repair, but pretty badly. So why is it happening to Trump? It seems kind of suspicious. But that's all I got to say about that. So I donated money. I should say we donated money to the RNC again. And you guys are free to do so if you want to, or if not, you don't have to, but we're going to do it. So anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.